Am I the asshole for picking out the peas from my dinner in front of my mom's boss? Edit. I'm autistic and don't like peas because of the texture that makes me feel bad. I'm dependent on my mom because I'm not able to live on my own yet, but I'm learning. I didn't realize that could change the context of the story until it was pointed out to me. Thank you for your insights so far. Hello. I'm 20 and I live with my mum, 48, in the UK. Mum hosted a mini dinner for some colleagues. Her husband has a big house and a garden where we sat. I don't like dinners and eating with strangers, but I had to sit with them, which was a little bit stupid. They made food I don't like. It had peas in it and I don't like peas. My mum knows this, but I wasn't allowed to eat other stuff because it would be making a fuss and there was no time to make other things. I was not allowed to make something myself either. I picked out the peas from my dinner to feed to ducks at the pond close to my stepdad's house because I know ducks like peas. They shouldn't eat bread because that's bad for them. I put all the peas in a little cup with my spoon. Mum's boss was sitting opposite of me and asked what I was doing, so I told him. He was silent for a while and then said okay. We didn't talk a lot, but sometimes he asked me a question and I answered. At the end he gave me some more peas that he had removed from his own food. I asked if he also didn't like peas and he said, I do like peas, but I also like ducks, so they can have my peas, which I think was nice of him. He also gave me £5 to buy ice cream for myself when I feed the ducks, which was also very nice of him. We didn't talk much, but I think he was a nice man and I liked him. But when he left he talked to my mum and she came to me and she was angry or upset. She asked me if I spend all dinner picking out peas and I said no. I also ate the pasta bits, but there were a lot of peas to pick out. She asked why I did that in front of everyone because that's very rude to do during a dinner. It shows you do not like the food and are not interested in the guest. This is exactly what I thought, so that's true. Mum said that she understands that it's not nice. But if she says it's important, like she did before dinner, then it really is important and I should keep that in mind. They were people who deserve respect and who feel put off by others touching their food strangely or not engaging with them. Mum's boss told her before he left that maybe next time I should eat something else because I didn't eat much. I'm not a big eater, so it's kind of normal for me, but he doesn't know that, of course. But the point is that he said something negative to her that could have been avoided if I didn't pick the peas out of my food. I didn't think about this. I understand that that is not a good thing, but my mum was genuinely upset and I think that is a little bit much. It's just a dinner and he was a nice man. I don't think he's angry at her. I was just wondering if I'm not seeing something important here that makes it an asshole thing to do. Am I the asshole? Thank you. Not the asshole. I'm 33 and hate peas, they literally make me gag. I pick them out of my food. Hell, my dad is in his 50s and picks his out, too. I think it's sweet your mom's boss saved his peas for the ducks. If he felt like what you did was rude, he wouldn't have done the exact same thing. Not the asshole. He actually cared enough to 1. Give you his own peas for the ducks and 2. Speak to your mom to make sure you're okay and comfortable. That generation of parents is super weird about food. Not the asshole. Your mom knows you don't like peas, made something with peas, said you couldn't make something for yourself, and then got mad when you picked the peas out but still ate the rest? The boss obviously didn't care that you were playing with your food. He just seemed concerned you didn't eat a lot. The fact that he gave you his peas means he definitely had zero issue with you picking them out. I.info, do you have any sort of special needs like autism? I'm trying to understand the story. Edit. Not the asshole. Appa's autistic and has sensory issues that his mom should understand. Given the circumstances, I don't think I'd say you're the asshole, but it sort of depends how obvious you were about it. Quietly eating around them or shunting them to the side of your plate is fine, but if you were making a production out of your search and destroy mission, that's a bit much. No assholes here, honestly. You seem adorable, the boss seems kind, the ducks seem hungry, and your mom seems a little nervous. Not the asshole. It sounds like you and the boss had an understanding and everything went great. He even supported your decision and gave some more peas. Your mom was likely embarrassed and lashed out as a result. It's not rude to pick things out of food unless you're making a huge, rude deal about it, which you weren't. Not the asshole. This was so wholesome to read. I'm also neurodiverse and I think sometimes people forget that we might act in ways that isn't always socially normal. Clearly your mum's boss was okay and understood this, as it sounds like he was rather engaging and lovely about it. Mum might have misread her boss's compassion towards the situation. Which, hey, hosting can be stressful. My parents sometimes get the ass on when I do something not neurotypical in front of others too. Hope you have a wonderful day op. Am I the asshole for being angry that my husband injured himself playing basketball? My husband has always been a big guy but was committed to taking care of himself. Over the years he gained and lost weight, and I really began to understand there was a mental health component to this, and it was super complicated. It's difficult to talk to him about, and the slightest conversation can quickly become defensive or an argument. During our marriage his dad died of diabetes at 55. Lost both legs during the process and was in a wheelchair. Since 2018 my husband has spent over $4,000 on weight loss programs. He had made it back down to about 280 pounds, after getting to almost 350, and then when the lockdown happened he sat a lot and began eating very unhealthy. I asked him after we realized lockdown was here to stay to start working out and eating healthy with me, and he said no. So I started working out over Zoom almost every morning with a friend. We have a good income, neither of us lost employment during the pandemic, we have good health insurance, etc. I brought up my concerns several times and I was blown off or told I was being critical and unsupportive. Well, after sitting and not eating a balanced diet for nearly 2 years his basketball league started up again. Since he had not had much activity I encouraged him to build up towards it and miss the first few weeks. He said he was absolutely going to go since he loves basketball. Every week he goes, it's miserable, he can barely walk, is sore, etc. His mom and I have both asked him to recover and not play basketball, but he keeps going every week. Well, on Saturday he might have torn a muscle in his foot. He came home in crutches and in a boot. But he won't be able to get a diagnosis until later this week or next. I can't help but feel angry because logically if you sit for 2 years and are 150 pounds overweight you can't do what you want as a consequence of where you are. He said it's a combination of poor choices and bad luck that he got injured. But I think it's just unreasonable and delusional to think at over 300 pounds you could play basketball and not get hurt, right? I told him I'm angry with him for not eating healthy, exercising and ignoring my advice, and that it's hard to be empathetic. We had a huge argument. He says I'm being selfish, making it about me, and that he's injured and it's not the time and place for me to be angry. He says he needs to be around positivity right now and that me being angry is not what he needs. Well, what I needed was for him to take care of himself. I want him to acknowledge that I have a right to be angry. Agree to get the right kind of help for his health, and I am happy to support his foot recovery. We also have a 3-year-old son. Am I the asshole for being angry? Edit. After the first week of basketball in May, a few days later my husband threw out his back, has numbness and tingling in his leg. Had to take time off of work because he couldn't sit comfortably and is scheduled to get an MRI and was on steroids when the foot injury happened. Woman facepalming, light skin tone. Yeah, he was an idiot, but he finally found something he's willing to get off the couch for, and you get pissy about it? You are the asshole, he's a grown adult. Have you considered that he might not be going just for the basketball? It's his social group and that's how they hang out. Honestly, when he sees himself not keeping up with his friends, it will probably motivate him into doing something about it himself. Your attempts to keep him away might make him feel down and have the opposite effect. I get it. I do. 2 years of, I told you so, was just thrown in his face. You weren't happy he was just sitting there. But come on. He's finally got something that is getting him off the couch and you still aren't happy. You are the asshole. He has a sport, an activity that is achieving exactly what you've asked from him, weight loss and a healthier lifestyle. Don't try to take that away. If his exercise of choice is basketball, then it's basketball. The most important thing in a healthy lifestyle is finding an exercise you enjoy. He's an adult and deals with the consequences like injuries if they happen. Additional context: after the first week of basketball 3 days later he threw out his back, he will say playing with our son, and had numbness and tingling in his leg, and a pinched nerve. He had taken time off of work because he couldn't sit comfortably, has been taking steroids for that injury, and had an MRI scheduled, but still went Saturday to play. Woman facepalming, light skin tone. Info: does he stretch before a game? Everyone sucks here. I understand where you are coming from. My dad is severely overweight and has been to the hospital a couple of times due to his poor health. Not only that, both diabetes and blood clots runs in his family. I understand that you want to be the person that helps make a change, but you simply can't force someone to change if they won't even do it themselves. I'm glad that he is able to play basketball again. but I agree with you that he should have worked himself up to it. If his weight has been fluctuating for years, then there might be some type of eating disorder there. Maybe recommend therapy? I hope it all works out and that your husband feels better and loses the weight again. Am I the asshole for expecting my BFF to notice I was upset? According to my BFF, I am the a-hole and she has done nothing wrong. Please help. We have been friends for over 10 years. I recently moved to a new city, about a 6 hours drive from my hometown. This weekend I made the drive home and went to visit my best friend. When I arrived, we chose a 4-player game that I'd played once before. The game started out great, we were having a great time playing and hanging out. About 30 minutes into the game, I was eliminated and removed from gameplay. In this group, I am typically the least skilled gamer, and more often than not I end up losing. I'm not a sore loser, I'm used to coming out on bottom in these games and that's not an issue. I enjoy playing the game, I truly don't care if I win. The game went on sans me, and for the first few minutes I was fine with it, assuming that since I'd been removed it would end soon, and we could move on. As time went on, it became clearer that it wasn't going to be over anytime soon, and I began to feel left out. I started expressing my frustration about 10–15 minutes after being eliminated. Sighing, tapping my fingers on the table, making comments in a sarcastic tone like, "Oh how fun," trying to give hints that I wanted to move on and be involved again without having to say I was bored. I thought for sure these cues were good enough, but it didn't seem like anyone was picking up on the fact that I was upset. At this point, I got up and said that I was going out to smoke alone, emphasizing the alone before going outside. Traditionally my friend and I go together. This took me 10 minutes. When I went back in, at which point I'd been eliminated for 20–30 minutes, I looked at the game and realized that they were even further away from finishing than when I'd left. I started gathering my stuff and said, "Oh, you guys still have quite a while on this game, then, huh?" And they all just said yeah, and kept playing. I'd clearly been upset and was getting ready to leave. I was feeling ignored and unwanted and didn't see the point of sticking around if I wasn't going to be part of the game. I then politely excused myself, thanked them for having me, and got up to leave. My friend was surprised by this and made a half-hearted effort to get me to stay. Long story short, I expected my friend to notice that I was feeling left out and upset, and she now says that I was immature for leaving and is demanding I apologize to her for being rude to her and her company, and she refuses to admit any wrongdoing. She says that she was having a bad day and was in her own head, so I can't have expected her to notice that I was upset without me directly telling her that I was. I told her that if she had even bothered to look at me during all of that she would have easily been able to tell I was upset. Am I the asshole here for expecting that my best friend notice I was feeling left out and unwanted after such a long time apart and me making the long trip to visit her? You are the asshole. You could not have written a better description of a sore loser. I can't play anymore so I don't want anyone else to. I'll throw down some passive-aggressive hints. Leave. And then get pissed at my friend about her having a good time. You are the asshole. You never used your grown-up words and instead sat there being passive-aggressive. You are the asshole. Should have just straight up asked if they could switch up what they were doing so you could join back in. But in all honesty, if they're serious board game players, I'm not sure you can really expect them to quit in the middle of the game just because you lost. Could you not still make conversation with the people who weren't taking their turn? Start up a new game with the next person who loses. If you want to be included in future get-togethers, my suggestion would be not to play games or to play games where everyone wins or loses at the same time. You are the asshole. Your friend isn't a mind reader. Well, she'd have noticed if she looked is cool and all, but it's not her responsibility to tend to your feelings when you won't actually express them. As we tell my 7-year-old niece, use your words. If you're old enough to drive and old enough to smoke, you're old enough to figure that out. You were immature and treated your friend poorly. You are the asshole. You are an adult and can voice your frustrations instead of ruining the night for everyone by just acting annoyed. It isn't their fault you lost at the game, and 10 to 15 minutes isn't really that long if it is a game. You could have struck up conversation or again just talked to them. You were immature and rude here. YTA. You are seriously throwing a tantrum for attention, and obviously you care about losing because you are expecting others to do their best to entertain you and you only. If you had this much problem as your friend Saud, you had to be vocal about it. People have their own lives and cannot worry about you all the time, and they cannot read minds. If you were upset you had a lot of time to voice it and you could have asked to be involved in the game somehow. OWLR offered doing something else but you chose to be a bad sport and throw a fit. You are the asshole. That is some serious passive-aggressive bullshit. Put on your big girl panties and use your words. You are the asshole. You were immature and rude, time to grow up. Am I the asshole for not choosing my brothers as godparents? For a little background, I live like 7h drive away from my family with my spouse and my sil. I'm pregnant with our first child, it's the first grandchild of my parents. As godparents of our child we choosed 4 people. And #X200B. My sil, who is living with us and will be also living with the child, my brother-in-law who I have a good relationship to, he is living 5h drive away, has a wife and a house and stable income and comes to visit regularly, the best friend of my sil, who is also friends with me and my spouse, a regular in our home, has her own key and is thrilled to babysit and spend time with the baby and will be an important attachment figure for the child, a good friend of us, who is religious, as I am. Most of my family and friends are not and I'm very fine with it. We decided for this person's in hindsight of, who will take care of the child, if something happens to us. My sil and her boyfriend were chosen because of the expectable, emotional and geographically, closeness to the child. My brother-in-law because he has a stable, settled life and is very close to my spouse and my sil, he also comes regularly to visits us. And our friend because it was important for me to have some religious person for my child, if religion will be important for it. We decided against my oldest brother because he was alcoholic. I don't know if his last attempt to get dry was successful till now. He is also not very good with money. He loves children and is very good with them, but I just can't see how he could take the responsibility if something happens to us. My other brother is very rational and I dearly love him, but he's not really empathic nor a family guy. I think he likes his independent life. Both of them visited me only once, to my wedding, and only for a few hours. They don't show any interest in visiting more often, don't even plan to come visit after the child is born because they will see it anyway when we come to visit the next time. It is expected that we come to my family on holidays, not vice versa. I really love my brothers but I just could not imagine them taking care of my child if something happens to us. And #X200B. My mother was upset and told me that I am the asshole for cutting my family out, and choose my spouse's family over mine. She thinks that I am unfair to leave my brothers out. She said I should have chosen my brothers as godparents over some friends of my spouse, or even worse, a friend of my sil, and that she is very disappointed in me for letting my family down. My mother and my grandma are also guilt-tripping me for moving in a big city and so much distance. They say it's my own fault that we have that less support from my family because we are so far away. And #X200B. So am I the asshole for choosing only the siblings of my spouse and some unrelated friends as godparents and not my brothers? I want the best for my child, but now I'm really insecure if I'm too biased towards my brothers and should have chosen different. Not the asshole. You have chosen people that you feel comfortable with for this very important role. Sorry about the pressure from your mother but this is really none of her business. Good luck with the baby. Not the asshole. Has your mom even considered how your brothers feel? It doesn't seem like your brothers were even upset by it, and she's speaking for them because she's upset about your move. They might agree with your decision. It seems like a conversation you should have with them instead of her. But even if they're upset by it, I'm sure there are other things you could do to symbolically show you love your family. You choose whoever you want as the godparent of your child. It your child. Your mother and grandmother already got their chance. Not the asshole. I had a heart attack reading this. Not the asshole. What do your brothers think about this decision? Also, you are the parent alongside your husband so you decide who becomes a godparent, even though I believe that it is too many godparents. Not the asshole. I suspect this guilt-tripping and behavior is one of the reasons for moving such far away. And you choose it right. What good would you do your child with them? Unroot them completely? Robbing them of friends and the remang, normal. Living with essential strangers? Would you trust them with their emotional healing, growing and upbringing? They will likely didn't talk highly about you, or, if you can't say you're fine with it, go with your guts. You, and your parents, are confusing godparenting with guardianship. If you chose someone as a godparent, it does not mean they'll have guardianship of your child in the event something happens to you and your spouse. You don't want non-religious people as godparents, for obvious reasons. They need to help support your child's religious upbringing, and be the same faith as you and your children. You need to put guardianship in your will, and even then it's not determinative. The court will determine what is in the best interest of the children when assigning custody. If you have more than one child, you'll likely have different people serve as their godparents, but the court will prefer keeping the children together rather than splitting up a family. Na plus a godparent is someone to guide in the way of the Lord if you and your partner pass on. Not a legal guardian, that's something entirely different, as you know. It's fitting that the people chosen are somewhat religious, respect your beliefs enough to raise the child in them. Not the asshole. You aren't cutting your family out of your child's life. You are thinking about appropriate carers if anything happened to you. I am assuming there is nothing stopping your family from visiting more often and taking an active interest in your child.